From Ryan Jack to Dave King, Baroo, 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 Baroo. From winning out to winning everything. The chairman's also your key begins. Why don't you go and no, that doesn't rhyme, doesn't it? Oh God, you know the chance to clear up, hen. You know the chance to clear up. Well, why don't you just go and get yourself ready? You get changed, and I'll tidy it. Oh, you have tidied up. This is that mould and that's curtains. Is that curtains for IKEA? On you're very you're going like that. You're wearing that. Oh, that's that's very brave. Brave like John Bennett. Brave like John Bennett trying to run a club in a crisis. Yeah, thanks for visiting Dave King, you nasty old drama queen bitch. Yeah, you're self-obsessed, self-serving, egomaniacal, major shareholder. So let's not get too nasty, Alec. But Christ, it's always lovely when Dave visits, isn't it? It's always lovely when Dave pops round, always so sincere in his offers of help or martyrdom. Okay, then I'll step in if you really need me to save one of the biggest institutions in British life, never mind British sporting life, then I'll just go ahead and I'll do that. Yeah, I mean, if it just so happens to raise my business profile in the meantime, well then I'm sure that's just a coincidence. I'll find it in my heart, my diary, to become the face of the mighty Gers, helping in a way. Dave helps in a way that kind of horrible narcissistic personality disorder maybe a spinster auntie pops round to help at a time of family death or illness, doesn't he? Yeah, you're running a wee bit late, but it's okay. Nobody really expects you to be in time. They know what you're like. What have I said? What have I said? Is it your time of the month? Well, I suppose it's more likely to be your time of life, isn't it? That's not really a thing for you anymore, isn't it? What have I said? I said what, are you dieting? Is that what's making you a bit narky? Is it the dieting? Well, I think just it's going to be a long road, but it's well worth it. You really need to do that for yourself. Welcome to your fat EGM. EGM. It's got to be an EGM. Welcome to your fat egregious, gratuitous, and Muppet. No, Muppet's a bit cruel. Maybe mercenary. I think so. I think definitely mercenary. Welcome to your fat egg. Rangers return to Ibrox, return to Gilligan's Island to face Dundee in the quarter-final of the League Cup, having not played there since we played Dundee in the league at Ibrox, and then had to go and shack up for 4 horrible months with the SFA at Hampden, and now we're back at Ibrox to face Dundee in the League Cup, and the prize is whoever wins that goes back to Hampden. Preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Now, Gersnet was on at 9 p.m. Tonight. I'm recording this after it's over, I think, or just it's still on just now. So you guys go and watch Gersnet on YouTube. I think it's going to be John and Ross, so that'll be a cracking show. They're going to have plenty to talk about. Check that out. And I'm also sponsored by Blue Plastic Bucket Seats. Blue plastic bucket seats. Blue plastic buckets. I don't mean not navy blue, not light blue, but blue, kind of royal blue almost. You know what I mean? It's like it's lighter than dark blue, so sometimes it would get called light blue, but it's actually, strictly speaking, I think it's royal blue. It's like that blue behind my shoulder there. I've got quite a lot of that kind of shade of blue around about this wee room here in my life generally. But blue plastic bucket seats. Sometimes they're sitting up. You know, they tip up. You know, so they sit up and you go in and you talk to your pals, and you can feel it. You don't think about it, but you can feel it. The lip, or the sitting bit, the seat of that blue bucket seat, the bit that tips up, it's kind of nestling against your thighs or your calves if you're particularly big, but you can feel it. Or maybe you can sit your bum in the tappy on the wee lip, the wee ridge right along that will eventually come down when you part. Sometimes you can put it down with your hand, other times you actually use your bum. Maybe you've got a bovril, or you've got a pie, or both. In my case, you sit down, you place yourself, but you need to be careful. You don't dun into it because you'll spill your bovril. And they're just a beautiful blue bucket. I mean, a cushion seat is more comfortable, but sometimes, well, especially if you get enough cushion already in your seat, like what I have, then it's perfectly adequate. But sometimes they go back the way you can feel them bending a bit if you're macking a size, or sometimes the person behind you is as big as me. You can feel their knees going into them and bending the back of your seat, so you can adjust yourself. But it feels cosy. These are all snug together. They've got a kind of black metal frame thing underneath them, supporting them, and you see them dotted or in the stadium, because people are coming in, they're sitting, and so sometimes you can see the blue bucket seats. Sometimes you can't. You just see folk in similar coloured tops to the bucket seats, the same kind of shade of blue. They're sitting in them, they're chatting away to their pals, and that kind of thing. And you approach them down these steps, these little kind of plastic dimpled kind of matting on the steps, and then the nose of the stairs, they've got these new, they've been there for a few years now, but still feel like brand new if you've been going for a few decades. Kind of white metal across the nosings. It's been clamped right in there. You can see a wee bit of the metal shining through, but they've got the kind of tackety stuff on the white's kind of tackety, it's got a real grip on you, so even if maybe you've had a few drinks, maybe because you've got yourself geared up, it's a kind of a special communal occasion, maybe it's a really big night, maybe it's midweek, so if you get a bit overexcitable, or you're already had a few drinks to stop you getting too overexcited, that will catch you. The steps will catch you on your way to your seat, and you just look all around the stadium. And even if it's best if it's completely full and you can't see any of the blue bucket seats, or if it's empty and you can see all of them. And although this show is sponsored by Blue Bucket Seats, Royal Blue Bucket Seats, the Royal Blue Bucket Seats that you can see aren't sponsored. There's no other stadiums do that. They have advertising, but they're certain seats with white to pick out. Even Bayern Munich, they've got the T-Mobile thing. They have folks sitting there, but we don't do it like that. I mean, Arsenal and Rangers, I think, the last in the country to even have advertising round about the pitch trackside advertising. We were certainly very late getting a shirt sponsor, but never. The seats used to be the blue bucket seats that I loved used to be also red, yellow, brown, but the blue ones were the best. The blue they were the best section. We are the section red. You've heard it being said. We are the section red. Celtic are dead. We are the Ibrox section red. Did all that when I was a kid as well, over at the Governance. But it's lovely, these blue bucket seats, just in a particular postcode, and you've got a big screen over to your left, a big screen over to your right, or it is for me anyway. Some of you will have big screens over, both of them will be over to your left, both of them will be over to your right. Some of you will be, you'll be sat with the big screens feeling as if they're behind you. Some of you will be sitting when they go up in front of you, but they're all just surrounded by these blue bucket seats in a particular area of a particular city that I have really missed, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them again. My name's Alec Anderson. I can't see, I can't speak, I couldn't take more than another week without you. Oh no! So I will drink my fill till the thrill is you. All in blue. We're back at Ibrox, folks. We're back at Ibrox. If I was any kind of podcaster at all, if I was a proper podcaster, I could do kind of sound effects and things like that all through this pod. I would have just kind of floating under my booming voice would be one of those kind of croaky female vocalist slowed down versions of a famous old tune relating to Ibrox, not playing through it as I was walking down that Copland Road, have that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Happily we wandered, me and my wee pal Joe. But I can't help it, but it is a special moment. It's a big moment. I think I spoke about it before. When we were going to Hampden, I ended up talking about the first times going to Ibrox, and it's a strangely special moment because I think I told you before. I did tell you a few weeks ago in one of these preview pods that my first game, I've told you this a million times. If you know me, you'll be sick of hearing this. 2nd of April 1977 was the first time I went to Ibrox, beat Hibs 2-1. My aunt and uncle took me. I was with my cousin as well. My cousin's called Joe, Celtic Daft. Became Celtic Daft, Joseph McCluskey. That's who I was sitting next to. My first game at Ibrox. He enjoyed it that much, he became a Celtic season ticket holder. So I went with my wee pal Joe. And the second time I went to Ibrox, I realised I'd never really thought about it properly until very, very recently. It was this game, Morton, 24th of October 1981, and I was in the Copland front. How about that? I was in front of the Copland Road stand. So the two times I went to Ibrox was either side of it being completely transformed by Willie Waddle's vision to make sure that we never lost anybody again. Nobody came to harm simply going to watch the football at Ibrox. So it's that straight away. What I was 8 and I would be 12 the next time I went. So straight away that was 4 years. I hadn't been to Ibrox. So 4 months isn't actually that long, particularly 4 years at the beginning of your life like that. And I think the 91-92 season, I was saving up to go back to full-time education to get that woodwork O-level. I don't think I went to a single game. I don't think I went to a single football match. Scotland, Rangers, anybody in the whole of season 91-92, which will be the last in my life. Until I basically can't get over the door when the fat gets too much. But that's the last time I didn't attend a football match in any season at all, and it was probably the first since what that 1980-81 season. So that was the first time in like 12 seasons in itself, and then I have been to at least one game, many more likely, in every season since then. But so there's plenty of reasons, kind of self-inflicted or circumstances deciding that you can't go to Ibrox throughout your life, for most of us, for longer than 4 months. But no, it's got me thinking. It has got me thinking about the times. And I remember that, going to the old Ibrox. Derek Parr, we were 1-0 down to Hibs, and I was in the centenary stand, which we didn't know wasn't actually a centenary stand at that point in time. It was our 101-year stand. Rangers it's always been chaos for Rangers. We didn't even know when we were formed for 100 years. So it's always been chaos. I'm not really that bothered about the fact we weren't there for the first 4 home games of this season, but nevertheless, there's been so much kind of tumultuous garbage going on in between times. It does make us glad to get this one thing sorted again, to be back where we should be, to be back at our home stadium. But I remember going in there, the centenary stand, with my aunt and uncle, and I remember the look of the old Ibrox, the big open Celtic end, the Broomland Terracing, or the Broomland Road end, or the Celtic end. I don't remember so much about the Rangers end. It was end that we were between trebles, and the season we're already well at the league race. We only had the Scottish Cup final to look forward to, which seemed like small fare after having won everything the previous season. But it's probably why I was getting taken along as well. But I don't really remember much about the Rangers end. It wasn't a big crowd there. I think it was about 10,000 or something at a time when Ibrox could hold 73,000. But I remember it was really sunny, and my cousins, who are actually my dad's younger cousins, Tom and Niven. Niven's dead now, but I remember looking out on the Celtic end, and my aunt and uncle going, Tom and Niven are up there, you can see them, and we could pick them out. That's the crowd was like, I could spot my 2 cousins. I don't know if we were waving back and forth or whatever, but we could spot them over on the old Celtic end. And I remember Rangers went a goal down. I keep forgetting the name of the Hibs guy who scored the first goal I ever saw in a senior football match. But Derek Parr, who still looks about 20 years younger than me, he scored the first goal I ever saw. And I didn't get up. I didn't stand up. When he equalised, I thought, that's not good enough. I'm not standing up. So I remember my uncle turning around and saying, cheering the goal. No, it's just an equaliser. And it's like, so a natural Rangers supporter, and like not easily pleased. I did cheer when we scored the second goal. It was Derek Johnston. So the 2 Dereks scoring the first goal. Rangers won 2-1. And I remember having this thing in my head that I thought, because I was obviously caught, as kids do, you cotton on quickly to the fact that adults are shouting abuse. Whether it was the referee, Hibs players, or whatever, more likely to be Rangers players known as. But I remember that the abuse, me thinking, this is exciting. You can shout stuff. And I think I had it in my head that the Hibs strip, and this was the Hibs strip, a darker green, and it looked like an onion. Quite a kind of esoteric thought, but I think it meant look with the onion with the skin off it, and it's got onions have got the kind of green veins through the kind of white in my head. And I think I had it in my mind to shout, "You're nothing but a bunch of onions, Hibs." Glad I didn't, or would folk have thought I was saying something else, and they'd have been like, "Oh, hardcore wee man, well done." I was only 7 at the time, but so I remember I didn't shout that, but that was what I had locked and loaded. Luckily, I didn't fire that one at the Hibs, but it was. That was something else. And the next time, as I told you just a few weeks ago, I won't go through it again. I was absolutely gutted because I didn't realise that the main stand I thought the main stand was going to be exactly the same as the Govan stand. I'd just been watching Ibrox on telly. I thought all 4 sides had been completely redone, and I was devastated. Because when you're a kid, you want everything to be bright, new and colourful. The main stand, in which I now have my season ticket, and I think it's the most beautiful football structure on the entire planet. And I love it. I'm like one of the environmentalists who will chain himself to the main stand if anybody threatens to do anything to it. At that point in time, I was like, let's get folks standing on it. What a lot of old crap. It's like a junkyard as far as I was concerned. I wanted all 4 stands to be this Lego, this pristine kind of yellow, red, brown seats, the screamingly empty seats. But do you see the orange look to the flares last week that were set off in the shed end, which used to be the traditional Dundee United end back in the day? That used to be the home end at Tannadice. But you see, the Union Bears were they let off all the flares at the start of the second half, but they're so bright on a sunny day they actually end up looking tangerine. And now the Union Bears are moving into what was the traditional home end of Ibrox. Are they moving in this weekend? Are they going to be in the front? It'll be quite a thing to see, because you'll have the folk in the wheelchairs, obviously, and then you don't talk to them. It's their problem, their fault that we're getting through all this. Don't be just blank them, totally blank them. What's wrong with the trackside? What's wrong with being out in the snow? See, sometimes I'm up in that main stand and I can just feel myself getting fat, because I've got my wee heater and all my radiator and my blanket and all that kind of thing, and I've got the club deck is one roof, and then there's the roof of the club deck. So I'm double roofed up the front of the main stand. So I would love to be out in the trackside, getting in the wind and the rain, a lot of fresh air in my face. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why they need this special thing, this special section, where they can get a view and stuff like that. In fact, it's not been that great this season anyway. They're really fussy, but it's going to look quite good if it's just the Union Bears. I know it's pissing off a lot of people that the Union Bears, who provide all the atmosphere in that games, are going to be jumping up and down about in front of them. It would bother me as well, because I don't have it in me anymore to be jumping up and down through a whole game. But at the same time, I love the atmosphere, and it's going to be nice, hopefully, if they're giving it loudy right under my chin as it feels, because just down to the right hand side, the front of the Copland, it's going to be nice. Dave King's 69. He's 69 years old. He was born in 1955, and he contributed, obviously, majorly to us winning 55. I'm 55, and I was born in 1969. And according to him, I'm contributing majorly to Celtic winning 55, 56 and 57 by sleepwalking. I'm sleepwalking them to the title. No, me, it's the previous. It's the current board, isn't it? But I kind of approve of the current board. I don't really have a problem with John Bennett or that sort. Even though he's had to go. But it's just like 10 years ago, isn't it? Just like 10 years ago, Dave, isn't it? It's just like, but isn't it? Isn't it like 10 years ago? You can't make it like 10 years ago when you come in and you were genuinely EGM. No, it's we need this. We need this little boost. I know it's a kind of fake boost, isn't it? Going back to Ibrox, it's not really. It's the end of a slightly embarrassing, little spell for us to not have our own stadium when we thought we would. If we'd been notified, we're going to have to shut it for the first 4 home games of the season to make sure we can get a proper section in there for the wheelchair supporters, and that'd been absolutely fine. That'd been something that had to be done, and it's been done for the best possible reasons. But of course, if Dave King had ordered, he would. You don't source stuff with China if you haven't. You don't know it's going to be there when it's supposed to be there. I mean, Dave King. The minute the Subway loyal started leaving after that game against Dundee at Ibrox, we beat Dundee at Ibrox 5-2 the last time we played at Ibrox. End of last season, he'd had the guys in the workies in there with the hard hats on and the drill things. When you gone, mate? You just gone for a pea? You gone for a pie? Later on, get one. They'll be shut now. The pies will be shut now. That's 7. You actually got your leaving. That's fine. See, would have been out. They've been getting that work done. David, in fact, by the time we get back tomorrow night, if Dave King had been in charge, all 3 of the stands. I mean, the main stand would be probably in a big glass case. He'd have it in a big glass case, all uplit and stuff like that outside as well. But we'd also, it is uplit, isn't it? And it'd have the other 3 sides. So it'd be 3 tiers, and it'd go right the way around. The capacity would be up to 70 odd. It'd be 72,000, 1872. Dave King would get it sorted. But it's not actually really anything to properly celebrate. It's a relief. It's a kind of like end of the COVID, restrictions. End of like VE Day. Like when Pedro Caixinha was sacked. It's the end of something really bad. It's been a bit uncomfortable for us rather than something to properly celebrate. But we need to make sure we can take the small. The manager was trying to talk it up today in the presser, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to our home place as well, parking my car on the same kind of bit, getting chased by the same dog that's in that. Because see the size of this dog. The guy's going just a couple of doors down from where I usually park the motor. It actually ripped me to pieces and that thing. But I'm looking forward to go back to the same old haunts and getting back to our alma mater. But we kind of need a wee boost. I think Celtic, they're looking like they might go stratospheric this season. They might actually be able to outlast us in Europe this season if they're going to win the treble. I think Celtic could win the treble. They could win it, not just unbeaten like they did in 2016. I think they could actually win it by winning every single game. 100% record domestically. They're doing big things in the Champions League by their own standards anyway. So far, they seem to have everything pretty much sorted at Parkhead, and we're needing to I think we're in a stage where we need to ensure we defend the least of the competitions we're competing in this season. And we used to say over the kind of 12 and a half years before last December that the League Cup, this is our cup. The League Cup's our cup. That's a Rangers Cup. We own it. We meant kind of spiritually, emotionally, historically, but now just it is our cup. Factually, we own it. Unlike us, the fans, for the last 4 months, it's been in Ibrox. We are the holders, so it's Dundee. We need to make sure we keep that. We keep that as a minimum. Dundee at home, our true home. It's maybe a bit weird with half the stand shut, but it could be dangerous. We're in no kind of run. We've not hit any kind of form, so to speak. The season's too young. We had that pounding at Parkhead. We went out of Europe as well. If we lose this and our League Cup to quite a capable and motivated Dundee, things will get doubly dark. They will get doubly dark. It's a doubling down on the Parkhead result. It would be a kind of perspective shift in a really negative sense. It would shift the perspective on the only thing that seems in any way locked in right now, and that's the manager. And it's we would be building on the Tannadice, whereas I think it was a quite an improved. Didn't get a lot of praise for it, but I think it was a good solid win. It could be a difficult away trip last Sunday, but it would immediately go out the window, and then some would be a bit of a disaster if the manager, if Philippe Clement couldn't do one of the things that Michael Beale did, and that was win his League Cup quarter-final at home. When Philippe Clement took over, he had a League Cup semi-final at Hampden lined up for him by the previous incumbent. So it's one of these wee things that he needs to get over the line, because it's that time of year. It's that time of year after Labour Day. You can't wear white, and Rangers are usually in some sort of crisis. And the past 3 seasons, this is the time, kind of September up to November, that we lose the manager, that we change the manager for one reason or another. In the past 2 seasons, it's been because the football's become inept, whether it's the manager's fault or not. I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's certainly a very good case made for him, having been, perhaps harshly treated. I think when you take over from another manager, even Brendan Rodgers, somebody was talking about, I think it was Joe Hart was on one of the Champions League programme on the BBC, Champions League football back in the BBC, really weird, talking about Brendan Rodgers, how when we thought, or it was a Christmas period, I think Hearts beat them home and away. They beat them at Parkhead, and I think Hearts beat them at Tynecastle as well. I think they'd lost to somebody else in that period, Celtic. And that was the time we started properly taking over from Postecoglou, is basically what Hart was saying. He just let them basically go on, carry on in the mould they'd been in, because it was a successful spell under Postecoglou, so why would he want to change it? And I think you had the same thing with Van Bronckhorst. He's come in and he's just let the team carry on in much the same mould, a bit of tinkering as they had under Gerrard, and it gave him a new kind of lease of life. Got us to Seville, got us to Scottish Cup. Didn't win as a league, though. We did lose the league title, but almost kind of understandable when you had to make a managerial change in November, and compensated for by that European run. And perhaps what we witnessed the following season was just the chickens coming home to roost. This is when he was going to have to start, maybe he's going to drop Tav or something like that. You never know, but we just got to the point where the players looked like they didn't know what they were doing, and Van Bronckhorst had to go. With Michael Beale, it was just, he lost it. He just didn't know what he was doing, and that get exposed. That get really exposed, and he absolutely 100% had to go, but it was this time of year. It was September into October for the two of them, and the one thing I need just now, Celtic could this season. I think they look so well organised. They look so, basically, because their infrastructure's been untouched, certainly compared to ours anyway, over the last decade or so. I think they look like they're just topping stuff up, and that everything's going very smoothly for them. They're in a good position. They haven't conceded a single goal so far in the league. They've won every game. They're all set up to be winning another treble. It's something they're used to doing, and this might be the one season they actually go better than us in Europe. It's on the cards. It's not happened for so long. So in that group they've got, the Champions League, I'm not being churlish or anything like that. It's still the Champions League. It's still a hell of the draw they've got. So it's just the one group now in all the European competitions. But the 8 games they've got certainly look doable in terms of getting through to the next round. So we need to make sure that I know this sounds horrible. It's at least us that they're beating. We need to make sure we're second. That's the first. That's the first target in a season like this when stuff's looking rough. We need to make sure we are second. We want them to be beating us in every competition. It has to be us they get past before they can win something. I want them to be at least be the main domestic obstacle. Because hard as it is to take finishing second to our oldest rivals, I find it a lot harder to not even get that close, and that's something that's happened to us in the past. Clermont needs to close the gap on them, yeah, but right now he needs to open the gap between his first year at the club and Michael Beale's. You know what I'm saying? The win at Tannadice went a long way towards that, but he needs to get us straight back to Hampden. He doesn't have an Old Firm win under his belt, so it's always going to be harder for him. It's always going to be hard until he gets that, until he actually looks like he's capable of beating Celtic on the day. He needs to be winning against everybody else, and that's something he was doing. After they beat us the New Year game last season, he got straight back on the bike against Kilmarnock, and then we went off after the Christmas break, and we went in a great run, went back top of the league, and we turned it into a bit of a league race for a while anyway. But of course, all this, I want to see that again. It's that, as I say, this is this time of year. Michael Beale lost to Celtic. He'd lost the first game of the season at Kilmarnock. He lost at home to Celtic, and then we had a kind of wobbly, narrow win at home over Motherwell. Didn't really convince anybody, and I think he had the League Cup win against Livingston, and he certainly beat Betis at home in that period as well. Because I felt like the Betis win was his first proper big win, Michael Beale, and then Aberdeen just did his 3-1 at Ibrox, and that was him gone. And I think we're in that situation just now where, with everything that's going on behind the scenes, with the changing of the very scene in which we're playing home games, we need Rangers to at least maintain that position of trying to launch themselves up the next level of attacking Celtic. And of course, I hope this could be construed as, I hope we finish second kind of pattern. Just proves Dave King's point in it. It's not just a tacit admission that our club is indeed in crisis, the very kind of crisis he's just the man to transform into a crisis for everybody else in Scotland, taking us from surrender by some ambulance to Celtic into Celtic are going home in a effing ambulance. I mean, let me read Dave King's latest statement. I'll get it here on the laptop, the latest statement that he was making the other day. But the South African Revenue Service were puzzled when the tycoon claimed to be earning only £5,000 a year. In 2002, following a 2-year probe, they hit him with a bill for £200 million in back taxes, insisting he was in fact the richest man in the country. The total has now grown with interest and penalties added on. King's defence was that nearly everything he had was owned by an offshore company called Ben Nevis, who are registered in the Channel Islands. He even told South African Revenue Services officials his watch and golf clubs were the property of the investment house and maintained the firm were run by a group of trustees. But investigators uncovered a tortuous paper trail which led to the Caribbean, the island of Guernsey, and then Scotland. In 2006, South African prosecutors won court orders freezing assets, including 3 million shares in Murray Sports, who owned a third of Rangers, and a house where King's mother lives. An appeal against the bulk of the tax debt was dismissed last October. In a devastating judgment, the court said King had no respect for the truth and does not hesitate to lie if he thinks it will be to his advantage. He is a mendacious witness whose evidence should not be accepted on any issue unless it is supported by objective evidence. In our assessment, he is a glib and shameless liar. On Friday, as his statement goes on Friday, a hearing in Pretoria was told a further legal challenge by Ben Nevis had now been dropped. A South African Revenue Service spokesman said this development means that certain facts are now uncontested and it entitles us to move on to the next stage, which is to claim the amount which is outstanding. King also faces more than 300 criminal charges, including fraud, money laundering and racketeering, all of which he strenuously denies. This isn't Dave King's statement, is it? This is the Daily Record. This is a Daily Record article from way back in 2012. Sorry, folks, that's just a Daily Record. You can't trust the Daily Record. That's totally that's totally irrelevant. Just cancel that. Okay, forget that. I don't have the document here showing his latest. He made a few statements over the last couple of weeks. Dave King, I know we were going to Parkhead to play first All Firm game of the season. He had a lot to say about how crap Rangers were, and this is us trying to get back to Ibrox, and he's got a lot to say about how crap Rangers are. So I don't actually have anything written down, but I'll kind of paraphrase it. I'll try to paraphrase it. just get a sense of his statements. 50 million quid, Saudi Arabia, Steven Gerrard would soon be here, would still be here. Everybody else at Ibrox hated Steven Gerrard and hunted him, calling him names and stuff, but I thought he was brilliant. Haitian immigrants are eating everyone's pets in Springburn. Douglas Park is fat and bald, and I'm thin, and I have all my hair, and I got a really nice deep tan from all my time playing golf with Gary Player in South Africa. I'm not driving a bus in Hamilton, which sounds pure tinky, while I'm glamorous. Well, I mean, you can't argue with that, really. I think EGM, 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 he's put himself in the same sentence as £50 million and Saudi Arabia, and that's basically the same as having £50 million and Saudi Arabia in your pocket and being ready to spend £50 million and Saudi Arabia on players, only on players, and on this crappy infrastructure stuff, wheelchair fans. I mean, come on. We want wins on the park, don't we? He also puts himself in the same sentence, of course, as Celtic winning titles 55, 56 and 57. I think a lot of us can see that coming, but what we've already seen as Rangers supporters, and we'll never forget, something far more darkly serious, is the kind of big talk, small delivery, hysteria-driven leadership which got King great kudos, I would say, for delivering us from it in 2015. But it turns out, going by this statement, he was only able to look the kind of hero in 2015 because he managed to find people in charge at Ibrox at that time who were even worse than him, even more genuinely dodgy than him, and his business past the best lack all conviction, the worst are full of passionate intensity. Sometimes that's actually an instruction. I mean, the best, lack all, you might be the best, just lack all conviction. Just lack a lot of public conviction, while the hysterical stuff, the passionate intensity goes on in public from the type you want to get. Maybe I'm unimpressed because I'm old enough to remember when, Lawrence Marlborough, through David Holmes, arrived, leadership and major investment all in one package, largely behind the scenes. There was a lot of tumult. I think I saw something on the internet about it today. An Old Rangers News headline, was a Daily Record headline or something, I don't know, but there was a lot of kind of rancour with the Rangers board in the early to mid-80s as well, and Lawrence Marlborough came in there via David Holmes as chairman. Still on the go, David Holmes. A book out recently. I didn't realise that. It must be 89, I think. Still looking a lot trimmer than me. But he came in there and it was kind of done. I was only a kid at the time. I was like 16, 17, so maybe I wasn't concentrating enough on the business side of things. Maybe it was a total car crash, and as limited as coverage was of those things in those days on television, what have you. But for me, it only exploded what happened when David Holmes came in. And I remember seeing the Rangers News, this guy's come in, he's going to be the chairman or chief executive or something like that. And whatever, boring. We're still getting gubbed at 3-0 at Pittodrie and stuff like that. I just remember sitting, watching the telly with my dinner, 6 o'clock news, dinner on my lap on the Monday night after being at the friendly against Spurs where we get beat 2-0 on the Sunday, in the days when football on a Sunday was unusual. And Moira Stewart it was who said, the manager of just hearing Rangers getting mentioned on the news was quite, the main British news was quite a thing. That was a shock. They sacked Jock Wallace. What? He's going to be replaced by Graham Souness. What? Like double, treble, quadruple take, fish finger dropped on the carpet with Bean on top. I was just, what the hell's going on here? The explosiveness, the explosion was done on the park. Manager, that was as high up as it got. Everything else kind of behind the scenes was fairly smooth, fairly low key. I think for Dave King to come in talking about how he's going to bring in the investment afterwards and doing it via just basically trashing everybody and everything at Ibrox. It's just a horrible look. It's not a very Rangers look at all. I know we are mental. I know we're just a crazy club. We like to make out with the establishment and all that. And it's just the same as Celtic trying to make it their kind of bohemian, happy-go-lucky chappies when they're Presbyterian than we'll ever be at times. I think it's a nonsense to think that we're somehow like kind of keeping it quiet like the royal family all the time. We do. We're absolutely mental. And to be honest, I love it sometimes. I love that about us. But that's not the way to conduct yourself, Mr. King. I think maybe I'm just bitter because David Murray got hunted for one admin error on a tax case. Quite a serious one. To be fair, quite a serious. While what was that? 300 odd cases, or something like 200. I think was it 230 odds instances of tax evasion, tax avoidance. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know the terms, but he was up on that in South Africa. South Africa's not, they're taking a lot of Russian money just now, a bit of dodginess going on in the South African government, but I felt as if, people were wanting a statue for Dave King, and I thought, well, a guy who'd actually won his 16 league titles and 9 in a row and got to our first European final in 36 years and all that, kind of half rebuilt Ibrox, topped up the work of Willie Waddle. I felt as if he'd get hunted in pretty quickly. There was no kind of understanding shown there at all. The only thing, as I said before, that David Murray could really do to do down his own achievement was to almost kill the club. So fair enough, I get why people don't want to talk about him, but it just seems a bit hypocritical to suddenly be thinking Dave King is the answer to our problems. I think he lost £20 million, didn't he? Did he actually lose £20 million? I'm never really sure about these things. I never don't follow the business side of things so much. So it's not as if he's no paid his dues. It's not as if he's no a Rangers man and does. Oh, I would like to think wants the best for the club, but his way of going about it is pretty well. Who do you want? And then who is it you want? And because I'm the Trumpian manner of Dave King's approach to become chairman this week is automatically made me think of the bumper stickers in America when the last election, the election that Trump lost, in the build up to that election, was it just said literally any other living thing, literally any other living thing. That's what people wanted. That would be better than Donald Trump, and I don't think that. Obviously, that's too harsh. I don't think literally any other living thing would be better than getting Dave King in, but I think we just get a CEO in, need stability, me taking introducing your chairmanship bid by just basically overblown gossip in public about all the directors who are there. We had enough of disaster capitalists with Craig White. I think anyone who needs it to be a disastrous situation at Ibrox needs to frame it as a disastrous situation at Ibrox before they can capitalise, is not to be trusted. His behaviour is embarrassing. We might lose at football right now, but we're still fundamentally ensuring we don't lose the club, which is done by having good, steady Rangers people, I think, at the helm, going about their business with a kind of concentrated, quiet passion and steady, guaranteed input. And Saudi money, even if it were to materialise, would cost us our soul. Why do we want to employ a recruitment agency to get a CEO? Well, if you don't really know that, Dave, if that's something you're genuinely wondering, I think we have to wonder about your business acumen. Just get back to wearing your kind of chillaxed hipster dad Liverpool t-shirt, Liverpool players, not a Liverpool strip, like that'd be tacky, to celebrate Rangers winning 55. A wee glass of wine from probably one of your own vineyards, because when the Rangers top and having a beer would be too on the nose, be a bit tacky, wouldn't get the right CEO. We lost the last one because, like Gerrard, he'd done a good job, so he get poached. We thought he'd done a good job anyway, but the main thing for me is Dave King. He looks like William Fichtner. He looks like Van Zandt. He looks like Roger Van Zandt from Heat, LA Crime Saga. It's a film, 1995 movie. Pacino and De Niro are in it. It's directed by Michael Mann. Don't know if I've talked about that before, but he looks a bit like Roger Van Zandt, who has offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, and who welches on a deal. He's not. Nate, who's the middleman for Neil McCauley, De Niro's crew, he tries to sell him back remember I was talking about the Play-Doh. I was talking about Play-Doh in the last pod. The idea was that was the last time I'd enjoyed a Sunday, thinking I was carrying the shape charges that they were used in that they used in Heat to rob the security man to get the bearer bonds. That's him hitting the thing to get the bearer bonds to come out the security drawer. So they realised that Roger Van Zandt would get his money back. He'd get through the insurance. He'd get 100% back for his bearer bonds. So let's get in touch with Roger Van Zandt and try to sell him his actual bearer bonds back as well, and we'll both make a bit of money on this. And Roger Van Zandt's a bit dodgy, like certain businessmen that we know of, and he Welsh is on the deal, and he tries to he's got to send one man alone to an old drive-in, Santanilla, but he sends two men, didn't he? Three men really. One of them's got a gun, and he kills him and he kills the other one, and it's two men he sends anyway, but he creeps out the back of the boot and he's got a machine gun on that, and he Welsh, and the Roger Van Zandt is like I'm talking to an empty telephone because there's a dead man on the other end of this line. I don't really want Dave King to come. I'm having to read notes here because it's business stuff. I don't really understand business stuff. Anyway, another thing I'm supposed to be raging about apparently as a Rangers supporter is the fact that Philip Clement didn't pick the team I expected him to last Sunday. What, are we getting upset about that now? We won. We kept a clean sheet and we won. But people seem to be raging. Rangers fans seem to be raging that Ath didn't realise he was going to pick Kieran Dowell. I mean, none of us realised he was going to pick Kieran Dowell, but we got the result. And that's the main thing. I really didn't care. But if he wanted to do himself a favour the day at the press conference, Philip, I mean, he should have just, because the first thing he usually gets asked at a press conference is the injuries, isn't it? What's the injuries update? And well, we've got one star almost fully recovered from a long period out. A long-term injury. He kept him sidelined all summer. Couldn't take part in any of our pre-season friendlies. Hasn't featured competitively so far this season. Been training on their own for months now. But while recovery isn't 100% complete, they're definitely ready for the first start of the season on Saturday. It's Ibrox Stadium. I'm talking about Ibrox Stadium. Yeah, and everybody would have laughed. The journalists would have stood up and applauded him, and it'd been the wittiest manager ever to take a press conference. And Sam Allardyce said he'd get more appreciation if he was called Samuel Allardyce. Rangers are back at Ibrox. We haven't played there since we beat Dundee 5-2 at home. Don't say there, Alex. Say here. It's going to be here in mid-May. And now, after the hellish kind of 4-game spell at Hampden, kind of mid to late September, 5:30 on a Saturday night. Was it 5:45 or 6 o'clock? We played St Johnstone at Hampden in the last round in the League Cup. I think it's live on Premier Sports, who sponsor the actual tournament. The idea is we're going to go back, but make sure it's on your phone. It's no on your smart card. We're back, but we're not back to the same routine. You might be sitting next to somebody who should be in the Copland Conversion as well. That's to watch yourself. You know what they're like. Dundee beat us in the League Cup final in 51-52. Dundee won the League Cup twice in a row. The first time they won the League Cup, they then retained it. Dundee United did exactly the same thing. But I was telling you last week about how Dundee United really, and here about Dundee, they won the championship the season before last when Dundee United won the championship. It's like they're following each other back and forth across football history, the two Dundee clubs, and Dundee also beat Celtic. Was it Bobby Flavel was the guy who scored in both the finals? He beat us 3-2 in front of about 95,000. I think it was October 51, and then about October 52 they beat Kilmarnock in the second League Cup final win. The Kilmarnock managed by Malky Thompson, who became temporary Scotland manager, played for Celtic. He died in Ardrossan. A lot of people die in Ardrossan. A lot of things go to Ardrossan to die. But he was Kilmarnock manager either side of Willie Waddle, being Kilmarnock manager, Malky Thompson. So he... is it Malcolm McDonald? Malky Thompson, Malcolm Mackay, whatever. I think it's Malky McDonald, isn't it? Aye. Yeah, aye. He was at Brentford manager as well for a while. But so anyway, that's enough. My complete confused head when it comes to football history. If it's no Rangers, and sometimes even it is Rangers. But they beat the kind of Iron Curtain side of Willie Woodburn and George Young and all that in the League Cup final, and they beat Celtic in the 73-74 League Cup final, and Celtic beat Dundee United in their first ever major final. At the end of that season, Walter Smith played against Celtic. See, Motherwell are playing Dundee United for part in the League Cup tonight. That was Walter Smith's last game as a professional player, was for Dundee United against Motherwell when it was home and away back in 1980s, early 80s, like 81 season or something like that. He came in and he played in the return leg when Dundee United put Motherwell out the League Cup on the way to winning their second consecutive League Cup. But Dundee United never won a third League Cup. But they've got 2 Scottish Cups. Dundee have only got 1. I keep saying this stuff. I don't know why I'm stuck on this. I saw Dundee a couple of times in the Scottish Cup, and I was in the Copland Road. The first time I ever saw Dundee, I was in the front of the Copland with my uncle. I remember saying to him, 16,500, that's a good crowd. And he just looked at me like, oh, son, you've got a lot to learn about Rangers. We beat them 2-0, and that was nice and straightforward. It was like a couple of seasons later with the 2 weeks draw at Dens Park, and they come back to Ibrox. The replay was on a Saturday. I was in the front of the Govan for that. Cammy Fraser, Ian Ferguson. I think we were down to 10 men. They beat us 3-2. So we signed Cammy Fraser, Ian Ferguson. Or maybe Fraser was... No, we signed them anyway. And then the following season, John Brown scores the only goal. They put us out the Scottish Cup. Ibrox, I'm in the Govan front, and he's celebrating. He come up to where I was sitting and go, oh, no, it was a whole Ali get to France game. Super Ali was having a good day that day, but John Brown had a good day. He scored the only goal of the game and celebrated by getting it round as a Dundee player. And so if we do get put out the League Cup tomorrow night by Dundee, just console yourself with the knowledge that whoever scores the goal will become a Rangers player in short order. What else has been happening this week? Best sponsorship deal ever. Best sponsorship deal, that's for us. Best deal for us. That is, I know it continues a significantly long, is it a 10-year deal? With the creepily named holding company, the Kindred Group. It sounds like a kind of Brethren offshoot or a late 60s LA cult, but when its income is kind of target dependent and only a record for us, really. Well, it's a bit like making out that you're winning the Champions League opening night is the best ever when it's actually only your best ever. It's the first time you've ever won your first Champions League group game, and there's another club in the same country as you. It's actually won 5-0 in their first ever, their first group match of a Champions League campaign. And that happened like basically a quarter of a century ago. And we won 5-0 against the team that finished top of the group. Well, we finished third, and it was Sturm Graz. And last night, there's no happiness just now. There's just nothing. There's no even a bit of kind of retrospective. We did it before you against Celtic. It still ends up with a story that pisses you off because Abdallah Sima scored against Sturm Graz last night in an opening game of a Champions League group, the Champions League group as it is now. Last night for Brest, cracking goal, he scored as well. So that's one of the. I take it back, Dave King. Come save us. You're the only king I want hung in the Rangers, the home dressing room at Ibrox. In portrait form, obviously. Sima made the right move. I think we should be glad we had him. I think there's a kind of attempt almost to get back at it. This is one of those things. There's a kind of constituency, almost a polity within the Rangers support right now that loves this Dave King stuff. They wants permanent revolution. Every time something goes wrong, let's burn the whole thing to the ground and get somebody else in and just. It's like they only seem to support Rangers when Rangers are winning. And I know Rangers should be winning. That's part of our job. That is one of the characteristics of our club, so big as our support. In Scottish football, we should be winning at least half the trophies. But there comes a point you've got to ask yourself, as I've said before, what are you actually supporting? Are you just supporting Rangers only when they win and hating us when we don't? You're allowed to hate it. You're allowed to hate not winning. But sometimes it just seems to seep into, unless we're winning every single game, and then unless they're picking the players I want to play for Rangers, then we should just be getting rid of everybody and everything, and that just can't sustain. I have a suspicion that basically is at the heart of why we ended up in the situation. The global financial crisis was at the heart of why we ended up where we did in 2011 and 2012, but I had enough of all that nonsense then. I would like some stability. Unibet on the shirt, and it's 32 red. Is on the training kit. And by the way, I better see Rangers wearing different training kit for the League Cup than what we wear in the league. That's really tacky. You've got to wear the same. It's really embarrassing for a club of your stature to be wearing the same kind of training gear, same warm up gear in two different competitions. So it's the Unibet thing, the Kindred Group or whatever you want to call it. It features that kind of sick-sided betting advertising where it's trying to make out that it doesn't want you to bet. Was it the 0% thing, which is supposed to be a target for. They want to have zero of their income coming from problem gambling, which is fair enough. It's quite noble, but still a gambling company taking your money after it. It's no, but having been at the coalface of the betting industry, I might have told you before that I worked for Ladbrokes, and knowing some kind of glamorous, souped-up megalopolis type Bet365 advert on a kind of a fancy app where you retweet your 2 wins that you get to all your friends, but never tell them what the ones you're actually losing. But I actually worked in the betting shops when smoking was still allowed. I worked in Knightswood, Dalmuir, Parkhead, Saltmarket. I can tell you, folks. I can actually tell you. Firsthand, I've seen the seriously positive effect that gambling can have. Really, a lot of optimism. It's just great. It's a wonderful thing on all the Scottish communities. I picked up a phrase I'd never heard before. The only thing I ever learnt about horse racing in my 2 or 3 years working as a cashier in Ladbrokes all across Scotland. In one of the rare races, what a scene it was in a packed bookies when Frankie Dettori didn't win a race, and I picked up this phrase, choked at you. Choked at you, see you next Tuesday. You choked at you, see, I didn't choked at, he's cheating. That's what it's all the folk that were betting on Frankie Dettori because he won all the time were telling him that it was the same as VAR, referees, Masonic conspiracy, etc. It's you choked it. The idea was he was holding the horse back deliberately, no winning because he must have had a backhander on somebody that was. It's moments like that. You never forget moments like that. It's a great sense of community, and you have great individual moments as well. Where a wee guy would come up to you as a 7 furlong race. It's like less than a mile basically. Coming and he'd wait until the horse was halfway towards where it was like 15 lengths in front of anybody else, and he'd put a bet on that horse after, and he'd hand it over to you. When you go, mate, just stick that on there now, because if it's 2.5 mile, a race over a couple of miles. You take a bet after the horses had set off. That wasn't against the rules, so to speak. That was fair enough. But a sprint, no, that not. Is it not, mate? Sorry, I can't. And of course that. I can't take your bet. What? And of course that horse would win. And he'd turn and go, that's £500 you've cost me. That's £500. You're like, well, it was evens, mate. And I saw in your hand was 50 pence. No, but no, you'd cost him £500. And he's trying to cost you your job if you'd taken the bet. So it's a great thing, gambling. Really, it's a lovely thing. What's wrong with putting a fixed odds coupon on a Saturday? Absolutely nothing. Used to do it all the time. Just the fixtures take place for like Friday through to Monday now, so it's just the same. Davy Klaassen. There's outreach programs. I think this Kindred group, Unibet, whatever, they do an outreach program where they actually try to, through Rangers, try to help folk, mental health problems and what have you. So we live in the real world where gambling is a thing. People are going to gamble, so at least we can kind of get something back from it, then might as well do that. But yeah, it's always controversial, but it's a new deal. It's a good thing apparently in terms of money coming into the club. Davy Klaassen, never going to happen. There was a brief kind of chance that we'd let this guy go. He was a free agent. We could have got him as a free agent signing after the transfer window was closed because he left Inter. But he left Inter according to Davy Klaassen's own words. He went up to Simone Inzaghi and said, I want to go home. I need to go home. We want to go back to Ajax. All right, you go back. So it was never going to go anywhere else. I don't know if we wanted him anyway. He wasn't very good for Everton. He wasn't very good won Serie A last season, of course, Inter, but I don't think he was really getting a game that regularly. He's done very well for Ajax, bit of a legend at Ajax, and did really well with, was it Wolfsburg or Werder Bremen? One of the W's in Germany, anyway. I think it's Werder Bremen, practically in the Netherlands, so he just likes that kind of football, that kind of area. Nothing else really seems to suit him, so it was never going to happen. I didn't really want it to anyway. Right, team selection tomorrow. Yilmaz, Danilo, Matondo, they're all out according to the manager. We assume this means Chairmen's back. I assume he's got over his illness, so we want to have him on the right hand side, Cortez on the left, continuing his rehabilitation. That'd be quite good. We get Ross McCausland and Kieran Dow ready to come in and back them up if needs be, if they want to get kind of reduced game time. Is Tav going to be dropped for Kassan Weirjo? Everybody seems to be Nerai show Kassan Weirjo. The guy's got to get a game at some point. He's got to play in at some point. But God, the energy that would create. We've got Ibrox back, and also we've done the other thing that people want, which is dropping Tav. That would create it would be like a European atmosphere. The kind of European game that Tav used to win almost single-handedly for us. Let's be honest, we need to see the Dutch guy, but I don't know. We kind of go into this game treating it like we're playing against minnows. Dundee, they lost their first competitive game of the season just last weekend when they lost to Ross County, but they were top 6 last season. They are 6th, I think, at this point in the league. They concede goals. They've been conceding like 2 goals a lot this season. I think they haven't kept a clean sheet since July when they were. Inverness, they were in the League Cup group stages. I think they put 6 past Inverness and 7 past Arbroath and stuff like that. So they can score goals. They've been conceding them as well. But we need to be on it. I don't think we can be. But I think there was a sign last week when the manager at least intimated he was considering taking Tav off. As I said at the time, it might have been for a standing ovation. Who knows? It's definitely in the books. He said to Ronnie Esplin the day when he was asked the question at the presser, there's no need to rest anybody. There's no need to look after players to start rotating because it's a week since we last played. We had, the international break before that, and it's not until Thursday that we play against Malmo, so there's no need to rest anybody, but I don't know. Maybe this is the time to bring in Kassan Weirjo and give Tav a wee rest. I'm wondering about everything, really. I'm wondering about Tom Lawrence, who is coming on to a bit of form, scored the only goal of the game last week, had a few other fantastic moments. We don't really want to see him playing at 10, but then he came in and did all right, and it was a solid away win we had last week in the league. So he was put out to the press today as well. Usually makes you think he's going to be playing, but at the same time, we want to see Bajrami, the new, Albanian wunderkind at Bajrami. I think he's like 26, but we want him to get a game. His best position is 10. He came on the left-hand side last week for the whole of the second half at Tannadice, which intimates we're wanting to get him into the team pretty quickly. Would you move Lawrence somewhere else, or we just rest him altogether when he's just starting to hit form, coming back from a long-term injury still, really? I don't know how that's going to work at all. I don't know what's going to happen there. So, and even the sitting positions, you've got Dujon Sterling just floating about, could go into any of the fullbacks. So I'm assuming it's going to be Hefty at left back. Sterling could go in there. Sterling could go into central defence. Again, I think we'll take Suter. I'll have no great worries if we don't have Proper in there. If Balogun comes in and gets a game, whether it's for rotation or not, I'm not really bothered about sitting midfield. Connor Barron, definitely. I like Diamandi. I think Diamandi's good. He's getting some bad reviews this season. I think he's got plenty of energy, plenty of nous. I like his application. I like his attitude. But Nico Raskan, would like to see more from him as well. He could come in for the sitting two in midfield if the manager's going with the same formation, which I assume he will. The big one up front is Igaman. Igaman, we've seen a great quarter now, including injury time from him at Parkhead, and a great kind of 30 minutes all in probably last week at Tannadice. So is it time to get the Moroccan who's been getting talked up this last 6 days or so, time to get him on starting instead of Dessers? I think Dessers, apart from anything else, despite the fact that, we don't need rotation with all the rest everybody's getting just now, he's had a long season already. He's a long start to this season. He's maybe due a rest. Maybe time to see what Igaman can do at the start, as we did with Danilo at the start of the game against St Johnstone in the last round of the League Cup. So I would go for Igaman starting tomorrow. Have I mentioned all the positions there? I don't know. So the big one for me is it going to be Lawrence or is it going to be Bajrami playing at 10? Maybe Cortez going to do the same thing. Have Cortez for the first half, maybe have Bajrami for the first half, and then Cortez for the second half on the left-hand side, because Bajrami can play there. But I think we all want to see Bajrami at 10. But at the same time, we don't want to get rid. So I'm making no prediction. I'm making no prediction on the team. I'm just saying that's your options out there. We need to be on it. We need to get this game won. It's just great to be back at Ibrox. Dundee, or something like Dundee team of the 80s. I saw a few times. It broke my heart a few times. Of course, we signed Cammy Fraser. And was it just... I should have looked this up before I come on. It's around about 84, 85-ish. There was a terrible game, home game against another game I was at the back of the Govan. And it's a game where Cammy Fraser gave us the Vickies because he was so bad. He was the tab of the day. People wanted to get on his back all the time. And he scored the opening goal. He'd been getting barracked the whole game. It was maybe like 12,000, 16,000 at the game or something. It was a Saturday. It was winter. It was wet. It was miserable. It was before the Sunnis Revolution. And Cammy Fraser wasn't having a great game, but he goes up and he scores. He scores the opening goal. Basically won the game. Did we win 2-0 in the end up? I don't know. But so he comes running around the first place he runs. It was into the Celtic end. He comes running around towards the Govan. He just gives it the Vickies uppies because he'd been getting such a hard time. So of course, I would be like 15, 16 at times. I was, oh my God, this is amazing! Wow, he just gave us the Vickies. That's controversial. So there's uproar, and there's probably about 2,000 folk in the Govan. But yeah, fucking bad. So they're bad. But the Copland hadn't seen it. They had no idea what had happened. So they're starting. So when Fraser was getting the ball after that, everybody in the Govan was actually booing him. I'd like to think I wasn't, but I don't know. I was young at the time. Everybody's actively booing him. So the Copland starts, what's your problem? They start shouting, Govan, get the fuck. Govan, get the fuck. You're like, oh, you don't know what happened. Shut up. And they're like, oh, there's going to be riots outside. The Copland's going to fight the Govan. So there used to actually be a wee thing going there. So I get booed, I get abused by the Copland Road stand. So finally, partial closure for the Copland Road stand. I'm glad to see it. It took our time, but we got there eventually. And I need to watch myself because I could be sitting next to somebody who's in the Copland rear. Remember, he was at that game, the Cammy Fraser game, 40 years ago. And if I am, I'll just turn and I'll just go, get up, ye!